Hello. I hope you've had a chance to listen to me tell Shirley Jackson's The Man in the Woods. It's an enigmatic story. It invites discussion. It raises many questions without answering them. I offer no definitive answers, but I've read a lot of commentary about the story, so I want to share some ideas with you. I'll start with some comments about the names of the characters. The author, Shirley Jackson, chooses her names carefully for the characters in her story, and they often have meaning in the story. In this story, the main character is Christopher. His name clearly derives from the name Christ, so he might represent the Christian religion. The names Circe and Phyllis both come from Greek mythology, so they might represent a pagan religion. Circe was renowned for her vast knowledge of potions and herbs. Phyllis was a woman whom Demophon married and then left behind when he returned to Greece. Mr. Oakes, of course, might represent the forest. And the last line of the story is a line where he says, "Who is he who dares enter my woods?" So he clearly thinks of the forest as his woods. Digging a little deeper, a number of the details in the story suggest a religious cult. The three people who live in the house all wear long green robes tied at the waist, and they're all barefoot. And they're also very ritualistic. Each meal starts with the two women standing by the wall, waiting for Mr. Oakes to enter. Then they all sit at the same places at the stone table, and Aunt Susie serves them all. And Mr. Oakes seems to be much more than just the head of the household. The two women are extremely subservient to him. He behaves much like the leader of a religious cult. And when he shows Christopher the room of records, he displays enormous admiration for the records, almost a religious reverence for them. So the story is not exactly good versus evil, but it might be an allegory for the Christian religion versus a pagan religion. One aspect of the story, or one puzzling aspect of the story, is the system of marks on the kitchen wall. They suggest that there have been many visitors before Christopher, visitors who didn't fare so well. And there's also the remark about the dog. When Mr. Oakes sees Christopher's cat in the kitchen, he says to Aunt Sissy, "One brought a dog. Do you remember the dog?" Which clearly also suggests that there have been previous visitors who did not fare so well. At the end of the story, after Christopher steps outside and the door shuts solidly behind him, it's pretty clear that there will be mortal combat between Christopher and Mr. Oakes. The author deliberately says nothing about who will prevail in that encounter, and it's not clear, really, how it's going to go. On the one hand, Mr. Oakes has the sharpened knife, and Christopher is such a lost soul throughout the story. It's not clear that he would have the wherewithal to prevail in combat. On the other hand, Mr. Oakes is an old man. Christopher is a young college kid. And right before Christopher steps out the door, Phyllis gives him a piece of strategic advice. She says to him, "He'll be down by the river. Go far around and come up behind him." So we don't really know who is going to prevail. One more piece of the puzzle is Mr. Oakes' last comment to Christopher. When Mr. Oakes has the sharpened knife in his hand and he walks over and puts his free arm around Christopher's shoulder, he says, "Well, you remember about the roses. They must be tied up in the spring if they are to grow at all." This raises the question, is Mr. Oakes looking for a successor? Is he grooming Christopher to be his successor? I mean, maybe Mr. Oakes is waiting for someone to come along who is a worthy successor. If Christopher were to defeat Mr. Oakes and become the head of the household, would that represent the Christian religion falling prey to the pagan religion? I have no answers to these questions, but I hope that they provide some food for thought. Thank you for listening.